The world doesn't care how you feel, but Stoicism can teach you how to never break again. These 8 brutal laws aren't for the weak, but they'll make you unshakable. In a world obsessed with comfort, praise, and instant gratification, there lies a quiet, ancient power that can reshape your mind from the inside out. Stoicism, it doesn't come with applause, it doesn't go viral, but it has the ability to rewire your thoughts, harden your resolve, and help you walk through fire without flinching. If you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or mentally fragile, these brutal Stoic laws are not just ideas. They are weapons for your soul. They will break the weak parts of you and forge something stronger in their place, but only if you're brave enough to live them. The first law is this: you don't control events, only your response. This is where most minds fracture. The illusion of control is seductive. You want the world to play by your rules, for people to treat you right, for outcomes to match your effort, for life to reward your goodness. But the Stoics taught that everything external is beyond your grip. People's actions, the weather, politics, even your own body sometimes. Clinging to control is like grasping smoke. Epictetus said, "Some things are in our control and others not." Freedom begins the moment you stop resisting what you can't change and start mastering what you can. Your thoughts, your choices, your attitude. The fragile mind tries to control everything. The Stoic mind controls itself. Second, brutal law: you suffer more in imagination than in reality. Your brain is a liar. It builds worst-case scenarios and reruns past mistakes like a broken record. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that we create much of our torment by obsessing over what might happen, and in doing so, we suffer twice. Your anxiety is often just a movie your mind plays with no grounding in the real world. If you want to be mentally unbreakable, you must learn to silence that inner fiction. Ask yourself, is this fear real, or is it a projection? Most of the time, it's just your imagination weaponized against your peace. Don't let it win. The third law is the harshest wake-up call. No one owes you anything. Not love, not respect, not understanding. The modern mind is full of entitlement, expecting life to reward effort, people to recognize worth, and circumstances to align with plans. The Stoic rejects this. Seneca said, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." You are owed nothing, yet you owe the world your strength, your discipline, your clarity. When you drop the illusion that people should act a certain way, you're no longer offended by reality. You stop playing the victim and start building inner power. Nothing can be taken from you when you ask for nothing. The fourth law is painful but freeing. Everything you love will be taken from you. Memento mori, remember death, not as a morbid obsession, but as a reminder of how precious and fragile life is. That friendship, it will end. That body, it will decay. That moment, it will pass. The Stoics train themselves to live with one foot in the present and one foot in eternity. You don't get to keep what you love, but you do get to love it more deeply when you realize it's temporary. That is real power. To cherish something without clinging. To hold life like water, gently, without squeezing. If you fear loss, you're a slave. But if you accept him, these laws don't comfort you. They break down your illusions, strip away your excuses, and demand that you rise above your emotions. But they also liberate you. The Stoic mind doesn't bend to the chaos of the world. It stands firm in the eye of the storm. And this is just the beginning. The third Stoic law that will rewire your mind is this: do not react, respond. There is a monumental difference between reacting impulsively to external events and responding with deliberation. Responding comes from wisdom. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to pause, to reflect, and to act from reason, not reflex. In modern life, we are constantly triggered by social media, rude comments, delays, criticism. The untrained mind reacts. It shouts, it sulks, it spirals. But the Stoic mind observes these triggers like clouds passing across the sky. It does not grasp or resist, it chooses. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. The average person flips out, honks, and carries that anger the rest of the day. The Stoic sees it as a moment to practice mastery. They let it go, because being offended is a choice, because being angry is optional. The power lies in the pause. When you train yourself to respond instead of react, you rewire your nervous system to operate from calm strength rather than chaotic emotion. The fourth Stoic law is this: you are not your thoughts. This is a core concept not only in Stoicism, but echoed centuries later in cognitive psychology and mindfulness. Just because your mind produces a thought, a fear, a doubt, a fantasy, doesn't mean it's true or worth believing. Epictetus said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Your thoughts are not facts. They're just mental. Weather, clouds, storms, sunshine. You can learn to watch them, challenge them, and redirect them. The Stoic trains the mind like a soldier sharpens a sword, knowing that undisciplined thoughts lead to undisciplined lives. Instead of being pulled by every thought that arises, you can become the observer. You can say, "That's an interesting thought, but I don't have to follow it." This rewiring frees you from mental slavery. You stop believing the lies your fears whisper. You stop chasing illusions your ego creates. You begin to shape your life from clarity, not confusion. The fifth Stoic law that will rebuild your mindset is, don't seek comfort, seek strength. We live in a world obsessed with convenience, pleasure, ease. But Stoicism teaches the opposite, that growth is born from voluntary discomfort. Seneca practiced poverty once a month. Marcus Aurelius endured brutal military campaigns. Epictetus lived with a crippled leg in poverty, because they understood that comfort breeds weakness. When you voluntarily embrace challenges, cold showers, early mornings, fasting, silence, solitude, you train your soul to be stronger than your circumstances. Modern people avoid pain, and in doing so, they avoid growth. But the Stoic walks into the fire, knowing that what emerges is a purified version of self. When you rewire your mind to pursue strength over comfort, you become dangerous, not in a harmful way, but in a disciplined, grounded way that no longer fears life's storms. You become The sixth Stoic law is, detach from outcomes. One of the greatest causes of human misery is attachment. To success, to praise, to control, to validation. But the Stoics taught that, while you must commit fully to your actions, you must let go of how they turn out. This is the idea of amor fati. You do your duty, and then you surrender the results to the universe. If you cling to what is outside your control, you suffer. But if you focus only on your thoughts, actions, and effort, you find peace. Imagine preparing for an important exam, a job interview, or a conversation. The Stoic pours themselves into preparation, but doesn't panic about the result. They understand that the outcome is not in their hands. What is theirs is the process, the discipline, the intention, the courage. This mindset transforms anxiety into power. You stop living for results and start living from principle. This is the core of Stoic resilience. Unwavering in the storm because the outcome no longer defines you. The sixth Stoic law that can reshape your mind into an unshakable fortress is this: you are not disturbed by things, but by your opinion of them. Epictetus burned this truth into every student's mind. External events, insults, losses, even betrayal, none of these hold the power to disturb you without your internal agreement. The anger, frustration, sadness, they don't stem from what happens, but from what we tell ourselves about what happens. You lost your job. You can tell yourself, "I'm worthless," or you can say, "This is a transition, time to grow." The story we attach determines our emotional experience. Mental mastery is not suppressing feelings, but tracing them to the thought that gave them birth, and replacing that thought with a better one. That's why a Stoic doesn't get lost in drama. They control the narrative inside their head. The seventh law: practiced poverty regularly, not just endure it, but simulate it. This was a bold Stoic practice, especially by Seneca, who was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He deliberately slept on the floor, ate the barest of meals, wore rough clothes, and asked himself, "Is this what I feared?" The lesson: fear loses its grip when you voluntarily confront it. Simulating discomfort teaches your mind that you can survive without luxury, that status and possessions aren't who you are. And more importantly, it teaches resilience. In modern life, this might mean fasting, going without your phone, walking instead of driving, spending a day in silence. When you voluntarily reduce your dependencies, your mind becomes stronger, more flexible, ready for anything. That's mental toughness, choosing the hard road to weaken the hold of fear. The eighth and final law is the Stoic bedrock: live in accordance with nature. This doesn't mean going to live in the forest. It means understanding your nature as a rational being, capable of reason, virtue, and self-mastery. It means acting in harmony with who you truly are, not who society wants you to be. A tree doesn't envy the river, and the sun doesn't complain about the moon. They follow their nature. You must do the same. Anger, laziness, impulsive desire, These are unnatural distractions that pull you away from your higher self. A Stoic tunes into their inner compass, aligns with virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, self-control, and lives a life of purpose, not popularity. When your actions match your nature, peace becomes your default state, and you become unshakable, because you no longer live for approval, but for principle. These 8 Stoic laws are not tips or life hacks. They're spiritual disciplines, mental weapons, forged in ancient fire and proven in modern chaos. They don't just make you calm, they make you formidable. They train your mind to remain still while the world shakes, to smile while others rage, to endure without complaint, and to act with integrity when everyone else follows impulse. The mentally unbreakable don't possess magical DNA, they just follow laws like these, every single day.